So this week we're introducing the cats to their cousin Kai. We knew that this would be stressful for everybody, so we gave the cats some calming bites a week before they met. It's too bad that these don't work on humans because Lord knows I'm gonna need them. As you can tell, Kai is very scared and stressed out, and as I was trying to get him to eat, you can see Chase staring at him from far. But for now, we're gonna keep their distance and take things very slow. To start, I want them to get familiar with each other's scents. I also wanted the cats to know that it was important to be nice to our new visitor, but if anything, I think they're a little bit more afraid of him. I finally got Kai to eat, but then Millie was just giving him the stare down. But this scared Kai, so I had to comfort him again. This made Kai a little hostile, so I had to isolate him for him to calm down. After a while, I let him out, and even though he was still being feisty, Chase was watching him from his hammock above. And I wanted Chase to get familiar with Kai's scent while he played on the cat wall. Even though Kai was having a blast, I made sure to use one of our cat toys so that he would get familiar with our cat's scent too. Although I think this might have made him even more mad. Then he started getting aggressive with me. I didn't want it to escalate, so I took him back to his room. Then in the middle of the night, I found him staring at me like this. And then at 6 in the morning, I woke up to him screaming because he was stuck in our sheets. He kept meowing at me because he wanted to go outside until I realized who was on the other side of the door. So of course I closed the door quickly because Chase was waiting on the opposite side. And he did not sound the most welcoming. So I knew for day 2 that they would be isolated. Stay tuned for part 2. It's day 2 of introducing our cats to their baby cousin Kai. And since Kai was pretty much knocked out, we felt like this was a good time to prop open the door and let the cat snoop around. Sky was the first one to get comfortable and kind of walk around the room and see what he was up to. She started sniffing the litter box and even his bedding, and she was just so weirded out. Although Millie was really curious, she was very hesitant to get very close to Kai. But Chase did not hold back. I mean, this guy walked inside of Kai's litter box and left him a little surprised. And poor Kai was petrified. Chase is definitely the dominant type, so I do think this was his way of showing Kai that he's the boss around here. But he's also a little intimidated by Kai, which is probably why he waited for him to fall asleep to get a little closer. But we had to be careful because he was getting a little too close. He even woke up Kai to remind him of who's boss. So for obvious reasons, we kept Kai isolated for day 2. I also sprayed some of this stuff around their area so that they wouldn't get too aggressive towards each other. Apparently it's supposed to calm them down while they're playing footsies. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but tune in for day 3 to find out. It's day 3 of introducing our cats to their baby cousin Kai. Today we decided to slowly let Kai out of the room, and this was him and Millie's reaction to each other. We brought the cats a little closer today while they're eating, but we still wanted to keep a pretty good distance. I wanted them to be able to stare at each other while they're eating, but then I ended up having to cover Kai's face with my hands because he started growling. We didn't feel too worried about keeping Kai out of the room around the girls, but we definitely kept a barrier around him and Chase. With the barrier, I felt a little bit more comfortable to have them closer to each other. That way they're able to smell each other and even hiss at each other, but still while keeping both of them safe. And to make them even more comfortable, we fed them from the same tree. Even though Kai did not have a problem getting comfortable. I mean, he was scratching my sofa and it's only day 3. It seemed like Kai was most interested in Millie, but this is because we think he has a crush on her because he just keeps picking on her. But the house seems pretty peaceful while he's taking a nap. Don't ask me why we thought it would be a good idea to bring the cats a little closer to each other to have a little snack. I mean, it wasn't a horrible idea, but cats are so unpredictable, so this was very risky. Definitely don't try it at home though. When things started to escalate between Chase and Kai, I placed a blanket in between them, that way they would get confused. Also, I read this somewhere online, so please don't judge me. Honestly, day 3 wasn't too bad, but even though they were being supervised, I still need to keep Kai isolated for a little while. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for day 4. It's day 4 of introducing our cats to their baby cousin Kai. Today we're allowing Kai to finally roam the house and be free. And the first thing he wanted to do was to intimidate Millie. I could just tell that it was going to be a fun day. And Chase and Millie are not exactly happy about it. He seems to always pick on Millie the most, but I think this is because she's the smallest in size. But honestly, he picks on all of the cats. He just picks and chooses which one he wants to pick on for the day. Like Sky, who he seems to love chasing around the house. But sure enough, this isn't going to last long because Sky is our alpha and she's going to end up putting him in check. As for Chase, I think they're going to end up being best buds. But since they're both males and both very dominant males, I think it's going to take a few months before we get to that point. But after all, Kai is still a kitten, and kittens like to play too much. Like the fact that Chase is trying to sleep and this guy is just swinging him around. But at the end of the day, he is the only kitten in this house of 3 full cats, so I do think he feels a little bit intimidated by them. He's probably going to still continue to annoy them and play with them, but this is all a part of kitten behavior, so it's perfectly normal. For example, Kai found Sky sleeping in his bed, and he was not exactly happy about that. He kept trying to annoy her and scare her to get off of the bed, but she wasn't budging. When she finally got off, he still wanted to make a point that it was his bed. And me being so overprotective, I let him know that hitting was not allowed in this house. But sure enough, Sky ended up getting revenge the very next morning. Be sure to stay tuned for day 5. We've reached day 5 of trying to get our cats to get along with their cousin Kai. Today we wanted to bring the cats a little closer than usual, so we pulled out the treats in hopes that it would make it a more positive experience. So we put their plates very close to one another, and even though this was risky, we were surprised that it was actually working. There was no hissing or fighting. I was so impressed. us. And even though we're not at the finish line just yet, this is actually a really big step for them. And the treats helped a lot, especially when we were trying to get Chase and Kai comfortable in the cat enclosure together. Since Kai was roaming the house freely, we wanted him to have access to all of the amenities. And eventually, all of the cats were outside in the enclosure together. And this moment was such an accomplishment for us because we had worked so hard with the cats in the last 4 days, and seeing them birdwatch together, I mean, I couldn't ask for more. It really meant that our hard work was paying off. By day 5, they were already playing with each other. And even though it seemed like a quick turnaround, it was a lot of work to get to this point. We spent so much time monitoring them and just watching their behaviors very closely. And by doing that, we were able to learn that Millie and Kai actually get along very well. But that's probably because they're the closest in age. And for Kai, he was already making himself at home. And if you're trying to introduce a new kitten or cat to the pack, then we highly recommend being very patient and persistent. Because at the end of the day, the cats are going to be at their own pace. Even if that means weeks or months before they get along. And they don't even have to really get along or even love each other for that matter. But as long as they can live side by side, then that's all that really counts.